subscribe to my good friend Jim Smith's podcast, The Blades Ramble, right now.
Ramble on. Well, now's the time is now. Sing my song. I'm gonna run the world, gonna find my girl, I'm on my way.
What is happening, Blades? This is the one. This is the one we've been looking forward to. Or certainly I have anyway. I hope you have too. This is the big squad rebuild. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to have two squads for you. I'm going to have one on the current budget of 30 million quid on transfer fees, focusing obviously more of our Prem budget on wages. And I'm going to have a second squad based on a new owner coming in, an 80, 90 million potential spend. And I think that's probably gauging us. It covers both bases then, doesn't it, as to where we're going to be come start at season. So I think to start us off, I'm just going to clear the decks a little bit. Sounds a bit ruthless that, doesn't it? But we've got contracts to sort out. So the reason I was keen to get this video out early doors was because surely our retained list is coming out pretty soon, you'd think, because all lads are going to go away on holiday and stuff. They need to know the futures. And Ecky's already submitted his list to the board by all accounts. So I know that Ecky's said he wants to retain the majority of the squad, and he's only looking to make 5 or 6 additions, and that's due to the budget constraints. So we'll see if that is similar to my team on the £30 million budget. And then you'll also see what I'm hoping the club are able to do with a new owner and an increased budget. So without further ado, I'm looking at my contracts first of all, and those that are expiring. So we've got 12 players coming up out of contract, several more with youth team and what have you. For both squads, these players don't make the cut. What I've also done is looked at Salary Sport website, which gives you a rough guide as to what each player's on in terms of their wages. So I've taken this into account a little bit as well. Not only in terms of who I'm releasing, but who I'm looking to bring in, which you'll see, it'll become clearer as we go through. But the first player to be released is Ender Stevens. Ender Stevens, what a player for Sheffield United, but he goes 26 grand a week he's rumoured to be on. So we're going to replace Ender during this rebuild. We're also replacing John Fleck, which will be no surprise to anybody. He's on a rumoured 23 grand a week. Jake Eastwood does not make the cut in my squad, which will be no surprise to a lot of you. Ozzy doesn't make the cut either in either squad, doesn't come with us to the Premier League. And the saddest one of them all is Jack O'Connell. Jack does not make the squad. Even if he can play again, we don't know to what standard. We can't take the risk. Ozzy's on 18 grand a week. Jock's supposed to be on 23, I think it is, something like that. Altogether, just releasing those players, we've saved over 90 grand a week. They're going to be released either way. If we get new ownership, I'm also releasing Billy Sharp, who's on 16 grand a week, and I'm releasing Kieran Clark, who is not our player, but when I say I'm releasing, I'm not going to be looking to re-sign him. If we were paying his wages, he'd be the highest earner in the squad. I think 42, 43 grand a week he's on at Newcastle. We're only paying 12 or 13 grand of that at the moment. But unless he's willing to come back on that, then I'm not going to be paying him in my new squad going forward. So those are the contract situations. For those others that are out of contract, we have got renewal options on Wes, McBurney, Norwood, Koulibaly. I'm not exercising any of those options unless I have to. I'm renegotiating with them all. I want Wes on a 2+1 year deal, only if he's happy to be second fiddle, because Wes won't be my number one in either squad. I want McBurney on a 3+1 deal, not the 5 year that's rumoured, but he's a strong asset in terms of what we paid for him. He'll be on decent wage. He's rumoured to be on 22 grand a week, which will get a lift as we go up. All these wages are championship wages, which were reduced as we came down from the Premier League. So you can rightly assume that they're going to be bumped up again as we get promoted. So McBurney being on 22 grand a week might be 30 grand a week in Premier League. But he's got a 1 year extension which we can exercise. I'd be offering him a 3+1 year deal in favour at club, because we love to do our little +1s. Now, I were umming and ahhing about Koulibaly. I don't think he's had much of a fair shake, but I also don't think he's a Premier League player. He's not on a lot of money, just 3,100 a week, according to reports. So I'd be looking, and it's frustrating for lad, but I think it's better than just not being involved in a matchday squad. I'd be looking at sending him out on loan again. So extending him a little bit more, but sending him to hopefully the Championship to get some experience. So I'm keeping Koulibaly for that reason. As I've spoke about in Rambles previously, I want new deals for Baldock and Egan. They're both getting 3+1s. I said I want a 4-year deal. People have battered me down a little bit because they're both 30. But I think no two players deserve it more in our team other than the star boy who won't sign a deal, as we know. Robinson gets a contract, and it's controversial, and it's something I'm not still 100% convinced by, but particularly with our current budget, we have to include him. And let's be honest, cards on the table. I don't think I'm wrong about Robinson, but I certainly think he's massively improved. He's not a Premier League player, but as a backup and a squad option, he's earned a contract, I think. So 2-year deal plus 1 potentially for Robinson. And then I'm tying up the youth lads. Andre Brooks gets a new deal. I'm not sure on Blaster's current terms. Louis Marsh, who's absolutely storming it in under 23s. Willa Sula, Jebo, and a controversial one. I want to extend Ryan Brewster. And I know a lot of you won't agree with that because of stop-start is being kind about his United career. But I think there's a player in there, and we paid so much money for Ryan. There's another 2 years left on his deal, but what you don't want to do is send him out on loan this year. It does so well, and then we're in an Illiman and Sander situation where we've only got him, for that extra year. For me, he's not going to get into the Premier League side at the moment because he's not worked himself into either certainly fitness but form. But I personally would be looking to extend Ryan Brewster's contract and send him out on loan along with the youth lads that I've just mentioned. So they're all going out on loan to try and get some experience and see how they go. We've got to find a suitable level for them. Some might be, Brewster has got to be Championship minimum, which he will. He'd get a loan move to the Championship. Jebo's Championship. Asula might be League One. Maybe you look at recalling him if he's done well in January, sending him back out to Championship. But those players, I think we write off for the year as development, like a development project, if you like. What does that leave us with? And what I have to caveat this with now is obviously I'm going to be doing 2 squads, as I've talked about, but this isn't what I think will happen. This is just a bit of fun. So I'm sure you'll disagree. I'm sure it'll be nothing like what actually happens in the summer. We will hopefully be looking in the foreign market, which is something I haven't even touched on in this video, because if I knew the foreign market inside out and all these wonder kids that we should be signing from abroad, then I'd be doing a job. I'd be scouting for United, wouldn't I? But what I am doing is looking at established EFL and sort of out of favour Premier League players, which won't really be our market. But in terms of what I think we need, I've used our budget to get where I think would give us a fantastic squad going forward. It gives us every chance of staying up. I think both squads do that, but you'll see the difference in quality. And what we've got to focus on, the main aim has to be getting the best players that we possibly can that will be able to get us out of the Championship. So if you need to be building the ultimate Championship squad, because that might be where we're playing in 12 months' time, and we've got to be realistic about that. So let's get into it now. And I shoot myself in the foot with first argument, but you'll see how I redeem myself. So I've talked about having the ultimate Championship squad. Goalkeepers. So for our keepers, Wes has done very well. I think he was better last season than he has been this. But having said that, he's still a good Championship goalkeeper. Not let us down at all hardly this year. But for me, he's not a top-level goalie. And I'd be looking to keep him as long as he were happy to be number 2. And Davis would be the same as long as he's happy to be number 3. And that's in both squads. It's a huge step up in quality in terms of what we're going to be facing in the league, and I think our playing staff have to match that quality. We've been linked with Kakir from, I think that's how you say his name, from Trabzonspor. We were linked with him prior to signing Ramsdale in the Prem last time. Wilder had been linked with him. And we were going to pay an absolute fortune for him. I think it was 14, 15 million we were looking at. Well, Forest, when they were doing their throw the huge net out and see what we can catch, they were looking at him and they had a deal lined up for £1 million loan fee and a 7 million by either option or obligation on staying up. That would suit us down to the ground. This lad is a Turkey international. He's on 28 grand a week, which is steady. You know, it's good money, but it's not overwhelming money. He's 27-year-old, which is a decent age for a goalkeeper, and it starts bringing our average age down. So that would be my number one choice in both instances. I'm also going for the same keeper I've been banging on about, Mike Cooper at Plymouth. You've all heard me talk about him for months. 23-year-old, currently out injured, signed a new contract at Christmas with Plymouth. Big Plymouth fan, came through their youth system, but they're not a cash-rich club, which I keep talking about. I think we throw £2 million at Plymouth, sign this kid up, who is an unbelievable prospect, and he's going to be our keeper going forward. So if we get relegated, Kakir doesn't sign for us permanently, Wes is another year older, Cooper will be our number one. I think we sign him now while we're in the Prem for a couple of £1 million, which I know we ain't got a lot of money to play about with, but it's a drop in the ocean compared with an eye on the future. We send him back on loan to Plymouth for a year in the Championship. Everybody's happy. And that I think they'll go for that. And we've got to get him before he becomes sought after, because he's one of the gems I'm pretty proud of. So if you're watching, Eki, come on, son. Let's sort it out. Right, moving on. Right wing backs. It's as you were. I think we've got two of the best right wing backs in the division. George being the best, obviously. New deal for George, please. Bogle has not found his form at all since coming back from injury, but we know there's a real player in there, and he will push George all the way. And if George drops off at any point, or he unfortunately loses, gets injured, we're not losing much by bringing Bogle in. He's still a quality player, and that's how my right wing backs are staying for both squads. And it's the same to a degree with right centre back. So Anel is the number one, and he will play in every game where he's fit and able to do so. Bash, I worry about. I can't say any other. And in my £30 million squad, he is my backup right centre back. He's under contract for another year. I couldn't believe the wages that Bash were on. 22 grand a week. I mean, it's not a bad job, is it? But this is his 10th year. Hopefully he gets a testimonial at the end of it. He's earned every penny. Absolutely brilliant servant. I just don't think he's up to Premier League week in, week out. Let's hope he surprises us again and rises up to the level. The only other thing that I'd say with Bash is I've got a bit of a safety net. I'm looking at Zwanzebe from Man U, who's been on loan at Stoke. He's got a terrible injury record, which somebody pointed out to me and I wasn't fully aware of. But he's such a good player, really versatile across the back. I think he'd fit into our system really well. If he was fit as a backup, I don't think it's a bad option at all. The only stumbling block with him is his wages, 48 grand a week. Well, he's certainly not going to get that at United, and you certainly won't be giving a backup player that sort of money, but he's coming in for no. So I think we could get him on our current budget, and obviously as well with our new ownership. John Egan is still my main middle centre-back. I think he's earned his chance to take us up again and be in the team and have a go at the Premier League. I think he's one of our better players. I was surprised to see a little bit of stick for him recently. But I think he'll be our middle centre-back, particularly because there's so many other areas that we need to strengthen before replacing John Egan, in my opinion. So in both scenarios, Egan is my main centre-half in the middle. In my current budget squad, I'm going to go for Kieran Clark. And I know he's on a lot of money, but I'd only be going for him as backup if he's taking a significantly reduced wage. His injury problems worry me, but I think he's looked okay when he's deputised for Egan there. And as I say, it's one of the positions that, I mean, Egan's played 46 games this year. So, touch wood, we don't need a backup in that position, but you always need to have a specialist, don't you, particularly at this level. And I don't think, in terms of experience as well, because we'll be losing a fair bit of experience with Fleck and Ender going, and in some cases Billy going. But I don't think it's a bad thing to have somebody like a calm head who's been there, done it at Premier League level. So Kieran Clark makes it in my current budget squad. In my new budget squad, slightly different. There's a player at Brighton currently called Jan-Paul van Hecke. I don't know if you pronounce it Van Hecke, or which would be ironic, wouldn't it? But he had a season on loan at Blackburn last year and did really well. They wanted to re-sign him. He's not really done anything at Brighton, and I think he'd make a reasonable young understudy to Egan. 22 on minimal money. I think he's on about $4,000 a week at minute. And he's just a solid option to just grow and develop potentially. But he's due out of contract at the end of this season, but they've got a +1 option to extend it of Brighton. So we'll see. The other alternative I had, in terms of an upgrade on Kieran Clark, if you like, as an experienced understudy, or he'd certainly fight for the position, really. It's more of a competitive pitch, this one, would be Shane Duffy at Brighton, who's out of contract at end of season. Really experienced player, started off at Everton, I think, and then he's been all over. I think he had a bit of time at Celtic, and he's not going in because Brighton have just progressed, but 31, younger than Kieran Clark by a couple of years. He's on more money, $53,000 a week. But again, we won't be offering him that. And I think we've got to be able to go up to about 50 if we're going to start kicking on. That's why the transfer fee pot is lower, because we want to be able to be more competitive on wages, but we're certainly not going to be paying $50,000 a week for a reserve. We did that for Jags last time, as far as I'm aware. And, it's not the best use of the budget. But I do think Shane Duffy would be a pretty shrewd signing, if I'm honest. And the other one, if we've got a new owner that I'd like to sign, and I've mentioned him before, is young Ronnie Edwards at Peterborough. He's on next to nothing, £2,700 a week. I think we can get him for around 4 million with a few add-ons. If we stay up, you get a bonus. You can have a sell on Peterborough. We might chuck you a player out on loan. We'll give you a pre-season friendly. All these sort of things that Peterborough will snap our hand off for. I think Ronnie Edwards would be a really shrewd signing. Maybe send him out on loan to Championship. He's another one that, we have half an eye on future. And if we end up getting relegated, he becomes a main player for us, particularly if we end up selling somebody like Egan then, as we have to balance books again. Left centre-back. Now this is obviously, it's always been a problem position for us ever since Jack O'Connell's gone down. Robbo's done a fine job this season, I have to say, but he does not start in my Premier League team. He's back up, and in my current budget team, he's back up to Jacob Greaves of Hull. 4.5 million, I think we can get him for around that sort of price. He's on $15,000 a week, which is a lot of money, but he's 22-year-old. Great talent. I think it's just a strong investment for us, for somebody who's naturally played left back. He's played a little bit further up. I think he's best as a left centre back for us, but could then get forward a little bit like Jack used to do for us. I think Jacob Greaves is a no-brainer signing for us, and he's in both my teams. Jacob Greaves. The other one that's been rumoured recently, and it will obviously only be in my team or even considered for my team, and it's one for you to think about. I'm not necessarily going to throw him in. Connor Cody. It's for my new ownership team, obviously, with a higher budget. But he'd agreed to go to Everton. They've got an option to buy him. He's not getting in, though, at the moment. So he's going to go back to Wolves by the looks of it. They'd agreed a fee of $4.5 million for him. And 30-year-old, but on $62,000 a week, We're not going to pay that. But if we're willing to pay around 50 for a starter, and what I'm proposing here is having a little rejig with Cody going right centre-back and Nell being left centre-back, backed up by Jacob Greaves potentially, and Egan in the middle. I know some of you don't like that, some of you prefer a Nell in the middle and what have you. Some might think Cody's better in middle. But we've seen Egan move to right centre-back, if that makes it easier. I just think that back three, in whatever way you want to put them, is a Premier League back three. It even pushes out Reece to left wing back when I think Reece will one day be our main left centre-back. So just exciting options for us in that regard. Let me know what you think, 'cause that's one that I'm giving you an option on really to a degree. And the other one, just a little, another one of my development signings, if you like, cash in at Derby, is somebody we've talked about again on previous videos. Just got better and better as the season's gone on. Now they're not in the playoffs. I think we've a chance of getting him. I think we chuck 2-3 million at him. He's a left centre back. I think he'd play great in our system. He's good going forward. 21-year-old, only got another year left on his contract. Just over $3,000 a week. I think he's ideal. Send him out on loan to Championship in a team that plays three at back. Really good move for us. Really good move. It's a no-lose, that. My left wing backs, Reece Norrington-Davis. Because of me left centre-back and my centre-back situation altogether, Reece Norrington-Davis is my primary left wing back. I think he'll eventually move to left centre-back and can do a great job in either position. But I want Reece in my team. If we are on the same budget, currently under the same ownership, Ryan Manning from Swansea is my target. Really sort of good getting up and down, attacking fullback, takes a really strong set piece. I think he'd push Reece all the way for that shirt, and we sell Max Lowe. That's what I want to do. Either way. And if we've got money, and again this will depend on Borough not going up through playoffs, but I want to sign Ryan Giles from Wolves, and I think we could get him. I mean, Manning's on $10,000 a week, but he's coming for free because he's end at contract on our current budget. Giles, I think, will cost a bit of money. I've budgeted about 5 million for him, but he's not on as much money. I don't think he's on $5,000 a week. So we'd obviously be bumping his wage up from that, but I think he's such a smart signing. We could pill for Borough here on some of their loan signings that have done so well for them, which I'll come to a little bit later on. Into midfield then. Both teams, Sander Berger is my right centre midfielder. I think we're going to play with a flat 3 in the Prem like we've done previously. I don't think we'll play a number 10. I think what will happen is Illiman will play up top with another striker and Illiman will drop a bit deeper. That's how I think we're going to line up, so that's how I built my team. And Sander is on the right of midfield in both my sides, both my current budget side and my prospective new owner side. In my current budget side, his understudy is going to be John Swift from West Brom. Controversial one because he's turned us down before to go to West Brom. And how did that turn out, Johnny boy? I didn't realise he were only 27. They got him on a free, so they're paying him a decent wage at Championship level. He's on $24,000 a week. But because he were free and they're going to be in a financial meltdown, I reckon we could get him for around 3 mil. That might be being optimistic, but I think there's going to be a fire sale at West Brom in this in summer. And I'd like John Swift, if we stick with our current ownership, to be back up to Sander, who will then eventually succeed Sander when Sander goes. If we've got new ownership, and in my money squad, if you like, I'd like us to be a little bit more ambitious, and I love Tyrese Dolan at Blackburn. Not just because he did a job on us, but before then he was pulling up some trees and doing really well. 21-year-old, England under-20 international. I think we could get him for around 5 million. That might be optimistic, but I'd love us to have a go at him, and he could then potentially evolve into a 10 if that's the way we end up wanting to play. But I think he's such a good prospect. To get his hands on him at this stage would be a really shrewd signing again. Now in the middle, this might not be the most inspiring centre midfield you've ever seen. Norwood stays for me, as I've said. He's going to be back up to the main centre midfielder. And I wanted Hamza Chowdhury. And I'm not against going for Hamza Chowdhury, but I'm trying to be realistic with some of these signings. Hamza Chowdhury had a deal to sign for Watford for £6 million, which I think is a good deal for Hamza Chowdhury, good player. Particularly if we're taking our model of, if relegated to Championship, he's going to be a great player for us. He's on £61,000 a week. We're not going to pay it. We are not going to pay it. So what I did instead, and I'm not against going back in for Chowdhury if we can get a better deal, as I say, but I've gone for Ben Pearson in current budget for around the same sort of price from Bournemouth. He's been on loan at Stoke since January, done really well, really combative, aggressive, plays for the shirt. I think he'd really go down well at the lane. Bit of bite in midfield, which is what we'll need. He's 28-year-old, which is a bit older than I thought he was. He's on 28 grand a week. But I think 6 million will get him as well. So we're going for Ben Pearson over Chowdhury on the current budget. And on the money budget, we're going back in for an old favourite, Lewis O'Brien. Lewis O'Brien is going to be the one at 10 million quid that we go for from Forest. He's said to be on, though, 45 grand a week, which is a lot of money. And it makes him a little bit, should we, shouldn't we now? But this is only if we've got new money that I'm putting Lewis O'Brien in. So let me know your comments. I'm open to any sort of feedback on these. So, of course, my left side of midfield, I haven't gone for a natural left footer, which we historically try and do. My first choice in both teams is Tommy Doyle. But, and it comes with a big but, if we're under the current ownership, I don't think we can afford him. I'm going to go for a loan-to-buy option or obligation, depending on our survival. So Tommy Doyle, another loan for him, but this time in the Premier League, which obviously helps his development. If we get new ownership, we're paying 10 million quid to make him a permanent signing. I think it's a no-brainer. We all know about Tommy. I don't have to go into detail about Tommy. What a player. And again, if we're on our budget, we have to be smart on how we spend it. I'm going for Chong at Birmingham to back it, to sort of support Doyle and battle for that shirt, particularly if we get relegated and we can't sign Doyle permanently. I think Chong at 23-year-old, he's on 22 grand a week, which is high, but obviously makes a bit more sense as to why he signed for Birmingham now. But I think he's a good signing for us. I think we can get him for around 3 million quid. So I'm going for Chong. And back up to Doyle in my new ownership squad is going to be Ben Pearson or Chowdhury, depending on what we decide to do, whether we're feeling flash. And then the Hollywood position that everybody loves, striker. We're going to have a number 10 and we're going to have a number 9. But I'm just going to give 4 strikers in both scenarios. So in both teams, my number 1 striker is the star boy, Iliman Ndiaye. He's best player in Championship currently. Soon to set the Premier League on fire. Won't be with us after this year. And that's not me being negative. We've got to be realistic. So now we have to prep for life without him. In both scenarios, I'm getting Cameron Archer. So this depends on whether Borough go up or not, as well as whether we get new ownership or not. So if we're under the same ownership, and obviously Borough can't go up in either scenario. So Borough stay down, Archer's going back to Villa. We're under the same ownership. We're getting a loan to buy deal similar to Tommy Doyle. We're obligated to buy him, or we've got the option of buying him. And it's best case scenario for us, but we could potentially pay a loan fee up front to get Cameron Archer on that sort of deal to end the season. Premier League experience only increases his profile if he does well. Everybody wins, hopefully. If we have new ownership, he's the star man that we try and buy. 20 million quid, 5-6 year deal. The new Billy Sharp, and certainly fills the boots of Iliman Ndiaye. He's not going to be the same type of player. He's not going to be the same level of player probably, but he's a goal scorer. And if worst comes to worst, he's going to fire us back to the Premier League if we get relegated. No doubt about it. What a player. What a player Cameron Archer is. And if we're on our current budget, the other 2 strikers filling us out are McBurney and Billy Sharp. Sharp's there mainly for leadership purposes. He's striker number 4. I've sent everybody else out on loan, so that's where we are. And we have to work within our budget constraints. And if we're in new money, I toyed with this third striker quite a bit. McBurney's my fourth choice striker. But for the third choice striker to come in and out for Illiman, Cameron Archer, I thought about Ross Stewart at Sunderland, but he'd have beaten Ryan Brewster for Made a Glass Award, I think, this year. And I thought about Carlton Morris at Luton, but it's his first strong year at Championship level this time. They'd have been cheaper than the one I went for. I think we could have got either one for about $5 million. But Keenan Davis, who you know I really like, not a particularly high-level goal scorer, but playing well as a number 10, certainly did for Forest in Championship. I think he'd be a great signing for us, and he could be a late sub for Illiman and things like that, and play for Illiman in cup games and all this sort of thing. But when Illiman goes, he's a solid footballer, but he's expensive. And this is what, again, a bit like O'Brien, makes him either or. I didn't realise when he signed for Watford, if they got promoted, they had an obligation to buy him for £15 million. He's not worth that, I don't think. But I've plumped for him anyway, because it's Dozy's money in it, hopefully. 45 grand a week as well. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for a 25-year-old who's never done it at Premier League level. So I am changeable on that. After I'd done some more research from last time, I didn't realise it were going to be them sort of figures. But I'll stick my neck out and say I'd like to sign him. It might end up being my Brewster, if you like. But, we shall see. So that's my team. That's what I'd like to do in both scenarios. Let's have a look at both teams. So this is my starting lineup under the current. Having spent my 30 million quid or near enough, I've spent less than 30 million quid on this team. This is my lineup. Tell me what you think about this lineup. I don't think it's bad at all. So we've got Kakir in goal, but we know we've got Mike Cooper as a fallback option if we're relegated. We've got Baldock and Ellen Egan, like we have currently, in the lineup. I don't think you can change everything in the side. You can't rip the whole heart out of the team. I think they're a really strong part of our current side. I've got Jacob Greaves in at left centre-back, and I've got Reece Norrington-Davis as my left wing-back. Sander, Ben Pearson and Tommy Doyle in the middle, and Illiman and Cameron Archer up front. That is some side for less than 30 million. But obviously Doyle and Archer are on loan in that scenario. And for me, money squad, well, I think this is helped a lot in terms of the youth ranks as well for some of the signings we've made that'll be going back out on loan, I think. But Kakir in goal again, with Cooper out on loan, and we need to sign Mike Cooper. Love Mike Cooper. Baldock, Anel and Egan still, but Egan this time battling it out with Shane Duffy for that middle centre-back role. We've also got Ronnie Edwards, don't forget. Huge under-20s, England under-20s prospect, currently at Peterborough. Jacob Greaves is our left centre-back still, but there's the option of Connor Cody coming in as a right centre-back with Anel flipping over to the left. Reece Norrington-Davis is left wing-back still. In terms of competition, it's much stronger, much healthier, because we've got Ryan Giles now pushing Reece Norrington-Davis for that left wing-back spot, chomping at his heels. Sander Berger also stays in the side, but he's now, instead of Ben Pearson, it's Lewis O'Brien alongside him, with Tommy Doyle, the permanent signing in this side, lining up as our midfield three, and Illiman and Cameron Archer up front. Again, Cameron Archer now a permanent signing in this team. So those are my teams. I know a lot of you will be saying, where's Gyökeres? We're not going to be at mix for Gyökeres. Bigger teams are looking at him. Where's Alex Scott? We're not going to be at mix for Alex Scott. Bigger teams are looking at him. Where's Chuba Akpom? He's out of contract at end of season. He will sign again for Middlesbrough, no matter what division they're in. So there's a few that I think people will come at me with. Absolutely fine. I don't expect anybody to agree with me. I don't expect this to be the team that Eki sort of puts together in the summer, because I think we'll look abroad. But these are the type of players that I'd like to see us sign. if I'm in charge and I'm given the select pool of, you can only select players from the Championship, the Premier League, League One. Who do you want? This is who I want with the money you're giving me. I think those are really strong sides to be going into the Premier League with in terms of boosting our chances of survival. But I also think that if worst comes to worst though and we're relegated, then yes, we lose Illiman, yes, we lose Sander, and it's like a double whammy then. But we've got a much younger keeper, Mike Cooper. We've still got Baldock and Egan under decent contracts. Anel's still there. We've signed Jacob Greaves now. We've got Reece Norrington Davis, all with a year at Premier League more Premier League experience for some of them. We'd have John Swift, Ben Pearson as, you know, experienced midfielders to try and help us get out of the Championship. Norwood would probably come back in then. There's Chong potentially there to play as our number 10. I just think there's some really strong options there for us. Jebbo had come back then. Brewster had come back from the years on loan. This is if we're in Championship. And then if we've got new money, you're talking about, even if we're relegated, we've got Tommy Doyle on a permanent contract. We've got Cameron Archer on a permanent contract. Ryan Giles. These are cheat codes. These are cheat codes for the Championship. So let me know what you think. I'm really intrigued to hear. It's one I've thoroughly enjoyed sort of putting together because it's a bit of fantasy football manager stuff, really, isn't it? Something I haven't played for years, but I'm sure that I'll get a load of comments about what about Moussa Sissoko Dembele that plays for Lens in French League and all this. I don't know, mate. I don't know. Never seen him. I've plucked a name out of thin air there, but there will be people that, due to Football Manager and other similar things, will know more players than me now. But in terms of what I do know, this is the best team I could put together. So let me know what you think. I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with some of the players. I think it's exciting times for the club. Do you agree with who I've released? Would you have kept the players that I've kept? Would you have released some more players? Let me know. It's just, I think it's good fun to do, and you know, at least we get to do it with a smile on his face. I'm sure Ecky's pulling his hair out, to be honest, at the moment. So it'd be good to hear from you. If you do like what we're doing, please like, comment and subscribe. If you can check out me, if you haven't already, check out me Ramble Awards video. It's not picked up as many views as normal videos do, and I understand that because it's something a bit different, so I'm not sure whether I'd have been as keen. But I were really proud of it, and I think it's one of my better videos, if I'm honest. But let me know your honest feedback on that. And if you do want to subscribe, please do. If you want to become a member, no problem at all. I'll leave them details in description. But otherwise, let me know your teams. Come on, you red and white wizards. Up the blade!
Ramble on!